I'm going directly to the two questions what I have. This is a common sense that a perpetrator who is guilty for the destroying infrastructure and making a lot of casualties need to pay for this destruction. We talked a lot about the assets of the Russian Federation, state and local authority assets in the territory of the European Union, but also the assets of the Russian National Bank. When we talked with High Representative Borrell, he was answering that the EU is looking for a possibility to seize or use these assets for Ukraine, for the restoration of the damages in Ukraine. Where is the stage now? What we are going to do in this direction? And many of these assets and properties are used for espionage in the territory of the European Union, pretending this is cultural or educational entities where they are using for espionage. And I will use the second for my second question on the internet.
Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. Kovatchev. Let me start by reiterating that I am personally very much in favor of using the frozen assets of the Russian Central Bank for the reconstruction of Ukraine. I think this is morally, politically, and yes, also legally right. Because we could have doubts if we were in a different situation. But we are in a situation of an all-out war, where the Russian army is bombing schools, maternity wards, hospitals, churches, monasteries, households, apartment blocks. So this is the type of war we are obliged to deal with. And to use these frozen reserves of the Russian Central Bank for the reconstruction of this damage, it makes perfect sense. But you know, we do not live in a world of politics, we live also in a world of lawyers and insurance brokers and experts and international arbitrators. So when my colleague Josep Borrell told you that we have to get it right, this is what he has in mind. So let's distinguish between what is politically, morally, legally, ethically correct and how we can best organize it. And let me remind this House that there is a precedent. The Americans used frozen assets from the Central Bank of Afghanistan to finance restoration and reconstruction of Afghanistan. So this happened before. It's not something that is totally alien in the world of international relations.
Okay, Mr. Kovatchev, do you have a...
Thank you very much, Vice President, for this answer. And one second issue on the responsibility of big platforms, internet platforms. We have now the DSA and the DMA, but we see that this big platform, especially private companies, US companies, who are monetizing the disinformation, and we cannot fail, the democracy cannot fail a victim of a business model of a private company. We see that the fact-checkers, content moderators and trusted flaggers, especially in small language markets, are not good enough to fight against disinformation campaign started by the Russian Federation. Especially in the small language markets like in Central Eastern Europe, we see a lot of spread and visibility of such Russian propaganda in the internet platform, especially in Meta and their platform Facebook. So the implementation of DSA, DMA, how we can push these companies that they do their best to demonetize the visibility of disinformation.
Thank you for this question. Let me tell you that as Vice President in charge of promoting our European way of life, I feel very proud that in this political cycle, we managed to have this agreement on the DSA and DMA, which is the European way of digital governance. This is something that we should be collectively proud of, both this House, the Commission and the Member States. This was not given and it was done. And in Europe, through the DSA and the DMA, we're able to ask questions that have not been properly answered in certain parts of the world and have never been even asked in another part of the world. We found the right balance, and I think this would be the answer to the problems you raise. Of course, we are in a situation, like our Critical Entities Resilience Directive, where these rules have to be enacted. This would be the final protection against it. Until then, I also want to be fair with the platforms. I've met many of them, and I also attended a plenary debate here in the last plenary session. I think the platforms are increasingly aware of the need to deliver on Russian propaganda and disinformation. They know, and they know that we are watching them. And I think that they are making a considerable effort to live up to the expectations bestowed of them. But I would agree with you that their ever-increasing fact-checking capacity and rebuttal capacity should cover all linguistic sections, and especially some of our lesser spoken words in the continent where the battle of narratives is even more acute. So I fully agree with you on the need for them to do more in these particular settings.
Danke vielmals.
Thank you very much.